everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Gersnet Therapy Podcast. Gersnet is the Rangers podcast that is brought to you by fans and for fans, where the content is always absolutely free. As always, we're delighted to be brought to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. If you would like more information on Forrest Precision Engineering, please visit their website at forrestprecisioneng.com. They also have a stunning lounge in the historic main stand at Ibrox. And for more information on booking this unique space, please contact hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Podcast is live tonight, as always, on YouTube, and will be also available on all of your podcast platforms in the near future. So joining me tonight for tonight's therapy session is renowned therapist, or I'm not sure if that's in need of a renowned therapist, Mr. Alex Anderson. Alex, how are you?
Yes, definitely the latter. Definitely the latter, being in need of a renowned therapist. If nothing else, mate, if there's anybody out there looking for turd polishers, you and I must be experts by now. I think anybody trying to pod about Rangers must be an expert turd polisher. I saw the Europa League draw today, and I thought that's actually more exciting than a Champions League draw, and that's the only positive I've found the past few days, and even that I'm kind of kidding myself on. How's yourself, mate?
Yes, I'm recovered almost from the other night, and raring for another heartbreak on Sunday, possibly. But we wouldn't have it. Well, we would have it any other way, actually. And I must clarify, Frankie's already pulled me up on the green jumper here. This is Steve Davis Northern Ireland green before anybody calls anything else. So just to clarify on that. Alex, we were on for the first time actually a few weeks ago. I believe it was after the Motherwell game and before the Skoda, as you would call them, game.
Hi.
You were feeling quite similar to myself in terms of it wasn't time to panic. It wasn't the end of the world. We just started the season. Yes, things weren't wonderful, but we needed time. Do you feel the same? I mean, a week in football is a long time, but this has been a long few weeks. How do you feel now?
I think we're going to need a bigger, on steroids repeat of that reaction on Sunday. I'm worried that the manager himself might have had enough of it. I don't know if he's going to be able to cope. I'm trying to read his body language all the time. I think, as we're saying in that pod as well, he's always kind of on edge. He's got a reputation for being a bit kind of quietly spoken, and I was hearing when he first arrived from Southampton fans and Swansea fans, he could be a bit boring in his press conferences. But he just looks like a man that's simmering, ready to go all the time. And at first I thought that's quite good. He's got that underlying aggression. It's just controlled aggression, but he's driven, he's committed and what have you. But now I think I look at him sometimes and I can't quite make up my mind. I'm still hopeful that it's determination and he's just fighting off the kind of tsunami of criticism that he's getting from all corners. But I'm worried if he's maybe thinking it's time to go. Never mind whether we think. Clearly the vast majority of the Rangers support are telling him it's time to go, according to social media, according to the mainstream media. Anyway, but I don't know, mate. I'm not ready to give up just yet. But I'm wondering if the manager himself is.
Yeah, he really looks like he's teetering on the edge. I mean, take the football side away, which is very hard at times. There's a human being there that really does genuinely look like he's under a lot of pressure and struggling. And he signed up for the job, don't get me wrong, but it's not a nice position to be in right now. When nobody at this point seems to want them. I was sort of the opinion that, we can't give up yet. We can't give up on a manager yet. But I'm now wondering if, we're just kicking the can down the road. And the stronger thing to do. I mean, I think I remember a few years ago in the Premier League, Crystal Palace sacked, it was one of the earliest ever, but sacked, I think it was De Boer after only 4 games, and they were criticised. But it takes brave ownership to do that.
Yeah, I think the bravery of our ownership is tending towards going the other direction, sticking by him. I'm pointing out that I worry about what Russell Martin himself is feeling, how he's feeling about it, mostly because of the amount of abuse he's taken. It's a bit much more than Russell Martin. The amount of abuse he's taken, the shape of it. I think it's easy to step back. It's maybe too easy to step back and go, he's not a full month really of competitive football yet, or it probably actually has because of the time the qualifiers started. But he's basically still within the first month of his job. We're not at the end of August yet. But August hasn't ended yet. We're not at the end of the first transfer window that he's been involved in. And he's very self-effacing. I think he is, although there's certain times he's clearly covering stuff up. I think he's covering stuff up for the sake of Nico Raskin, Hamza Egeman. He's protecting people that aren't making his life any better. I think he's a really strong character, a really strong guy. And if I hear one more time, one more joke about being a veggie when he's a vegan, and then talking about being a vegan as if that's something to do with his attitude towards Rangers, how suitable he is to be a Rangers manager, I'll crack. But I feel as if the owners themselves are ready to take a big hit. I said after that game against Motherwell, you're quite right, that was the last time we were on, his reaction after that felt like a planned hit coming from himself, and with the knowledge that he had the full backing of the owners, the directors directly above him, but basically the ownership, Marath and Kavanagh. He had a long interview process, obviously, but I think he's constantly talking about having watched the tapes of the games last season. I think he's diagnosed straight away where the problem is, and it's a morale problem, maybe a focus problem. I know he wants to change the style and all that, but I think he's set out from the word go, and he's probably said to Thelwell and Patrick Stewart, at least, who Stewart has been in the building long enough, he will know the characters. Barry Ferguson was saying all this last season. Barry Ferguson kept saying it's not just about being a good technical player, you have to have a certain kind of character. He's having playing pops at guys in that dressing room for not being able to do it week in, week out, for dropping their standards. And I felt as if Russell Martin has been setting up the primary thing to do here is get rid of the dressing room culture that the Rangers support has been slagging off, has been diagnosing, perhaps inaccurately, but constantly saying over the last 4 seasons at least, they can do it in Europe. They can, it used to be we couldn't do it against Celtic, we couldn't do it against, domestic kind of opposition, but they were doing it against Celtic. We started doing it against Celtic last season as well as doing it in Europe. It was still, the support were given no credit whatsoever to Clement, or even maybe to Barry Ferguson long term. A few fans liked him because they still had this problem of losing to the fodder, the minnows, the teams were supposed to be beaten, of slipping up against them. And it was like, there must be a dressing room culture. There must be, it's going back to John Lundstrom and Connor Goldson. They were getting, Ryan Kent. They just keep letting us down. These players would get any manager sacked. Now, the players are changing, but of course the culture carries on through players, coming in and coming out. And if that culture is there, it's felt to me from the word go that that's what Russell Martin is there to attack. That's his first target, and he's going to get, because he went in quick and early after that game against Motherwell. And it's obviously stuff he was ready to say. And I just feel as if it is a war just now. I hated the way he was pressed on it today by the media, but I feel as if it might be a war with Nico Raskin or whatever. But it's a war that we've actually wanted won. And we've got a guy here who's doing it, and the form is really, really suffering because of it. But it's still in that thing of, we've got to take a bit of pain, as he keeps saying. There's a reason for him saying that. There's going to be a bit of pain because he knows how it goes. I think he's stripping it back, getting rid of the deadwoods or whatever, the troublemakers, and then he can have a proper go at his style of football. But I'm seeing I'm watching him today, and I'm thinking, is that a guy that's ready to step up a gear, that he's learning, he's ready to fight, or is it a guy who's ready to crack and leave? But I think the owners want him to stay, and I kind of do myself, but it's very dependent what happens on Sunday.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. You're pretty much the only one that I've heard sort of make the case for him, that he is trying to do something. I understand you're not saying results are acceptable, but you're trying to look past that and look at the bigger picture. It's interesting, but for me, then if he is clearing the decks as such and getting rid of what we need to get rid of, my concern is, and I don't fully know if this is him or this is Thelwell, but is what he's replacing them with, is that good enough? There's one or two are. My big concern is some of them aren't, and then which is going to happen, but also so many of them are on loan. So if he's getting this culture in, and most of the team are on loan, are we going to be doing this again next year, whether it's him or whether it's someone else?
He's going. I think we're really guilty of doing. I'm as bad as everybody else. Obviously, is we're judging just now, and I know this is what Russell Martin's saying. We're judging how we are just now as if that is it, as if that this is as good as he can make us or whatever. And we've seen the team going backwards in his time. They must win game against Panathinaikos. He won it. I bet he was lucky. That's what chance he got. But the football has got worse since then. And that to me speaks of somebody who he's either the terrible coach that everybody thinks he is and he's causing unlimited damage. It's just, I can't see Marath and Kavanagh, guys who we're praising them for, this will be great, the money they've got, but also the experience they have with sports clubs. It's invaluable. I feel as if they know. I feel as if they're confident in him and they know what needs to be done. And he's going to go and strip it back. And he will, I think, between now and Monday, Marath is he's known for a couple of times with Leeds transfer windows, he goes in really late to get the bargains. I think we've maybe got another couple of key players that we're going to be signing permanently. There's also the thing of not really knowing your budget until, half time and Wednesday night. You don't know, are we going to get Champions League money? Oh no, now we know exactly how much money we've got. So I think we're going to have a few more permanent signings before 11 o'clock on Monday night. And that'll make a big difference. But I think it's more a case of if Russell Martin can get rid of the people who are disrupting. If that was still supposition, but it seems to be very much. It seems almost apparent that's what's happening. There's a big rammies going on with certain players. If you can get rid of them, and he is the man, he's got the dressing room to himself. There's nobody disrupting his players. You get the system going, and then you can just bit by bit be replacing one loanee, another loanee, even if a couple of them get replaced in January or whatever. But it just all depends. I think if we get gubbed on Sunday, I just don't think we're at that point yet. I'm sorry to keep going on, but it's been a bit of a traumatic week. I think it's with Michael Beale. I don't think him or Clement get sacked a moment too soon or a moment too late. There's a point we just go, it's not working out. Obviously, a record equaling humiliation in Europe the other night. But that's something that happened to Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. He took us to a European final 5 months earlier. We had a record, the worst ever run of results at Ibrox last season. At any time in our 153-year history, 5 games without a win, four successive defeats under 2 different managers, with Queen's Park putting us out the Scottish Cup. Unfortunately, that's the way at Rangers the past few seasons. We've been having humiliations of that sort. And I don't know if Russell Martin just needs to, if he's taking it right down, stripping it right back, they're going to come earlier. I would rather have this just now and then go on the run than the usual. We get another guy in, there's a 10-12 game, new manager bounce, and then we're facing the same problems again, 2-3 months down the road. That, for me, is kicking the can down the road. I want to see how this goes. It might just be Sunday. Sunday might be the game. That might be it. No, it's just not working. He's got to go. But I feel as if that's not how this is. I don't think that's how this is going to play out.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I was sort of of the same mind as you until these last 2 games. It's kind of been these that have turned me. That I just don't think it's going to work. I think the biggest thing for me, I hope I'm wrong, but the biggest thing for me is that his which we all knew about, but it was his unwillingness to adapt. I mean, the fact that we were still playing that high line the other night, with 10 men at that stage was ludicrous to me. I mean, if you were to go and do your job or me and continue to do something that just simply doesn't work, questions would certainly be asked, wouldn't they?
I find it actually difficult to judge the other night as a football match. It just looked like a Rangers team that was, we all had that. I mean, I don't know about yourself, Ben, but I certainly, and people I talked to, the fear kicked in an hour before kickoff and we saw Raskin wasn't in the team.
Yeah.
Despite the fact I think Raskin's got to go long term, for the harmony, as Russell Martin likes to talk about, for the harmony of the dressing room, and so we can work in things properly. I think he's got to go. But like you're talking about, utilising what you've got in front of you. If it's a total, fallout, etc., I don't know what's happened between him and Raskin. Then he can't be playing him because that ruins the discipline. But I think it's been so kind of disruptive, and I don't think it's any mistake that word keeps creeping into his press conferences. It's been that kind of stuff could be so disruptive. That team the other night, what they were doing, and we've been bad. Well, we're bad at St Mirren, we're bad at Motherwell, we're bad at home to Dundee. But that, even though Bruges are a step up, that's 7 times out the last 8 seasons they've got in the champ. They're a good, solid Champions League group stage team.
Oh, they're a good team.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't all about it. They're not that good. Sorry, should I say?
Yeah.
It was gone. The mentality was gone. It wasn't about like getting called cowards at the end and what have you. It was a bit much more than that. I think everything was just gone. There might be the accusation that he's given them too much instruction. It's just we're on the border. We're on the cusp of it being time for him to go. I just want to see what happens on Sunday, and it might be there you go. We'll get pumped 5-0 at home by Celtic. Are you happy for waiting for one more game? But I feel as if it's just not quite at that point yet. There's so much. I feel as if there's a wee civil war going on, perhaps, in the dressing room with the players, and that the way we played the other night was just we didn't play at all. Didn't perform the basics. It was their the number 20, their captain. That moment where he was just in the second half. I don't know if it was before or after the sixth goal. He's standing almost in the penalty spot. I think it was closer than that, and it was like a dad playing with a wee toddler son out in the garden, somebody who can barely walk yet. And he was just like, I'm going to go left, I'm going to go right. And our entire 10 players, Butland included, seemed to be in the 6-yard box, going left, going right, and just watching mesmerised as they somehow managed to miss the shot. It was beyond farcical. And I think that's worse than what Russell Martin should be bringing to the team. There was something far worse going on the other night. I'm just hoping that's the boy was being lanced. Something really unpleasant to watch, but we can move on from now on. And I won't know if we can do that if we're to sack him today or tomorrow. But maybe Sunday will tell us that is the time to go.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I think when you look at the other night, we're not going to go into it. It's too painful to go into fully, and then
Please
look
don't.
at all the goals. And, yeah, exactly. But I think what's been missed in a lot of the talk that I've heard, anyways, it's so focused on Russell Martin that he has his faults, and don't get me wrong, and I'm not excusing him, but those players have a lot to answer for. Once you're put out there, I understand there's the tactics that they need to follow, but there's personal pride, and there's pride for the jersey and for the fans. And I mean, for me, they chucked it the other night. Not to a man. I mean, I think the likes of Lyle Cameron ran and didn't stop. But a lot of them just were not interested, and that worries me, and that's professionalism. That's not a manager. What I would say is, though, when he talked about the harmony, I was concerned because, firstly, I would say to you, is that not a manager's job? Now, I understand he's dealing with some players that aren't going to be there or whatever, but 8 of that starting 11 were his signings, so surely he should have instilled harmony in them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's happening, you've got, and you're criticising its loan players, and there's been criticised because there's a lot of young players he's signing as well. So you've got fellas coming, English fellas, young English boys coming to Glasgow is like travelling to the other side of the world, as far as they're concerned, when they come here for the first time. There's a culture shift, and you want to get on with your teammates, etc. I think there's different ways of a team chucking it. And if the manager is constantly at war with players who are leaving, or want to leave, or know they're the most valuable player in the dressing room. And this is the culture that the players the culture that he's trying to get rid of, but it's also the culture that the new players he has to bring in are meeting when they first arrive in the dressing room. And Antman is a fantastic night, that night against Victoria Pills, and people say, oh, it's because he just arrived off the plane, went straight onto the park, and he didn't get a chance for Russell Martin to coach the talent out of him. But I think it's also a case of he comes straight off the plane, and he's not a chance to. You could equally say he's not getting into the gossip or the cliques in the dressing room. He just went out and played before finding out, this is an unharmonious dressing room. These guys are moving up in sticks and moving country and just trying to settle in. That kind of stuff can completely throw you off. And I think it's the cryptic comments he keeps making, Russell Martin, for example, before the night before the game, and when on Tuesday night's pre-match presser in Bruges, he's saying, when we start winning something, when we've won something a few, in the future, I will then tell you the kind of stuff that goes on in your first transfer window this period of time. So he's obviously learned that he can't make too many excuses, because we don't accept that. You can't until you're winning. If you're winning stuff, that's fine. It's no excuses. It's just explanation. So he's going to do it, but he's letting us know shit's going on, shit's going down here that I've got to sort out. Whether he can or not, it's another thing. And was the interview? I can never remember what game it was. I meant to look this up before I come on. because it just keeps coming back to me. Last season, it was after a European game, I think. It was a great result anyway. And I don't know if Tav hadn't played, had been benched, or was injured or whatever. Right. But Nico Raskin stepped in as vice captain. And he accidentally swore in his post-match presser, just saying, "Oh, Tav's a fucking legend," and it was all right, but it was just showing the love, the bond. He's come in; he's the most talented player at the club. Raskin knows that, and Tav is the legend, the boss in the dressing room, probably. So they've sorted it out. I feel as if there may be something tight going on between them. They think they know better than the manager, who they arguably both played at a better level than, So maybe that kind of stuff going on. It's so starting. This is a problem in a kind of hard information, a vacuum of hard information. And when we're in this kind of form, you will start putting two together and maybe getting five. It might just be a straightforward case of Russell Martin is playing far too much open football. It's totally naive. It's too head in the clouds. I'll just keep doing the same thing and you'll learn. It's a process, blah, blah, blah. It's school of hard knocks. Just get out there and deep end them. They've got to do it. They will pick up the system, or I feel as if it is that partly, I would imagine, but it's also because he keeps warning us it's going to be pain, and that's kind of doing what we're expecting to get at some point. But it's also, I feel as if there's just a lot going on in the dressing room, and Nico Raskin is our most talented player, and last season he wasn't our best player. This thing, he was our best player, and that it was Václav Černý was our best player last season because he turned up 6.5 to 8 out of 10. Every game that he played, Václav Černý. Nico Raskin, when he was interested and he went on a run of form, phenomenal. But he was doing that same thing that the fans are constantly criticising the whole team for, of being great in European games, being great against Celtic, and then disappearing when we need them at home. The manager, we've drawn with Motherwell, we've drawn with St Mirren, we've drawn with Dundee. We get beat the last couple of times about St Mirren and Motherwell came to Ibrox. We drew with St Mirren the last time we went to Paisley. We drew with Motherwell the last time we went to Motherwell under different managers. So we're at a stage where it wasn't happening in consecutive games, but it was at Ibrox when we're losing consecutive games. Hibs, Motherwell, St Mirren, Queen's Park. It's not greatly worse than what was happening last season. So this is a man is in charge of a massive change of culture, playing style, and the playing squad. I feel as if this is kind of what should be happening, and so much of the bile towards Russell Martin was coming in before he'd even taken the job.
That's fair.
I feel as if I'm more worried about the support just now, what we're kind of doing, and what it's going to mean for anybody else who comes in to replace Russell Martin.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. It's not something that you'd want to come in and take abuse from the get-go. And I agree, a lot didn't want him. He wasn't my choice, however, I was fully behind him.
Mine neither, mate. Mine neither.
Yeah. I just struggle with this. If he is trying to change the culture, does he need to focus on the culture as opposed to the style? I know he loves to play football this way. However, for me, there needs to be more fluidity. There needs to be more flexibility in terms of, it's all well and good for me to go into a job and say, I'm going to do it this way. But if I don't have the resources, if I have John Suter at centre back who just cannot play that type of football, in my opinion, then maybe I need to try and implement it as I go, as opposed to it's this way and we're all in or we're nothing, because the rewards are wonderful, but the chances of the rewards coming immediately are slim compared to if we build into it.
You see, don't know if you've seen Casino, Martin Scorsese film, Joe Pesci, and De Niro, and there's a bit where it's a famous Japanese gambler, big time Japanese gambler, and he totally cleans them out, and he goes to get his private jet home, and he's such a big kind of gambler that they'll fly him, wherever he wants to go in the country with a private jet owned by the casino, and they pretend that the jet is broken. There's no working right, and he's going to have to. So they put him up in their hotel, all expenses paid, because they know he can't sit in a hotel room. He's going to go back down to the tables. He's going to try to start gambling, and they'll get the money back off him, which is exactly what happens. I feel with managers, Philip Clement was exactly the same. They think that every time they put a team out onto the park and they don't implement that system that they want to play, that they don't try to make the players perform to that, that they are wasting their time. That it goes, they're never going to get what they want. They're never going to get the team to that point of doing every single competitive match they play, probably every friendly as well. They have to go out there and work on the system. We had the same thing with Clermont, 4-2-3-1, which is what Bruges, Philip Clermont's alma mater, that's what they were playing the other night. You know what I mean? There's a lot more to it than that, but it was some, and we were up and we were playing in the counter attack. We can't handle having possession, blah, blah, blah. We've been through this before with other managers of late, but I just, right or wrong, I don't think we're going to get to see his style, you know, until he's got all his own players. Until I'm just saying the same thing again and again. Sorry, but
no, it's fine.
He's not going to shift because he feels that's putting us backwards. Taking a 6-0 doing off Bruges is one of those days where it's just, I think there was other stuff going on. As I say. I don't even know if you can judge it properly. I think there is a problem just now, not a problem, but a learning moment, whatever you want to call it. The players are taking on so much information. He's given them, they're clearly puzzled. It's wooden, they're slow, they're confused, they're leaving spaces everywhere, you know. But I think that's part of the process. And anybody who, the minute we signed Russell Martin as manager, we all went and watched the videos and researched them and found out about him, you know, and Rangers Review would be doing stuff about him as well, talking to Swansea podders, Southampton podders, and they were telling you it takes a while to bed in. There's going to be pain. And he's been telling us that from the moment he came in. So this is what we signed up for. This is what it's going to look like. But I don't think we're seeing the actual proper style just yet. We're just seeing the rough sketches, the preliminary sketches, and we're thinking, what is that pile of pish? Hopefully the portrait, once it's all been filled out and painted and what have you, is a lot better. But as I say, we don't know if it's going to get to that point.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, in principle, he is doing the right thing and he is playing the long game. But it's just the Rangers. You just don't get that. That's what the problem is.
The thing, Ben, so I'm sorry. I know we're talking about this before we come on air with Frankie. I can't do that thing of looking at the live comments at the same time.
Yeah.
So I know people get. I know what's been happening recently. I do my own pod, and people, other Rangers fans, quite rightly, because we're all suffering just now. That was humiliating the other night. I'm so proud of our records in Europe, and it was awful. But people will think if you try. They confuse mitigation with outright support or outright approval. I'm not. I think if we were anything apart from the home game with Pilsen, I'm not saying any Rangers performance this season has been acceptable. You know, the 9 out of the 10 we've had so far, none of them have been acceptable. I'm not basing what I'm saying here on thinking this is the way we're going to be playing. I'm basing this all on we have to give it a chance to get better. And why I think it is this bad just now, I still think there's reasons to think we should give the man more time. But I am not for one single second saying that I wanted Russell Martin to get the job.
Yeah.
Once he got it, I do this all the time. He's a Rangers man. That's it. I want to support the guy. I want to love the team. I want to love everybody. I find it hard not to. But I'm not in any way blind to just how bad it has been. I'm just saying, there's been enough signs. There's been wee signs there in various games, particularly the Pilsen game at home, but mostly it's been awful. But I just want to get it so we're certain, you know. And that might take a doing at home by Celtic. I'm sorry, but we're trying to get back to retaining league titles. We've won one league in the last 14 years. It's fucking so I keep saying, let's try something different. You know what I mean? Just try it. Just give the guy an arm month or whatever, you know. And if if we get tanked by Celtic, I think that'll be over anyway.
Yeah. The only thing that I would say, not the only thing that concerns me by a long stretch, but one of the things that concerns me at the minute is I thought when he first came into the job and before we kicked the ball, I don't like saying this, he got it, but in terms of he was all about the styling and all the questions from when he was unveiled were about his style. But the thing that he said was, I want to implement my style. I will implement my style, but we have to win while we're doing it. And that was it, the words out of the man's mouth. And unfortunately, he's not managing to do that. However, a win on Sunday, some way or another, and it doesn't matter to me whether we play wonderful football. I want us to play well, but that will come down the line. But a win on Sunday, you're 3 points behind, a couple of good signings, and you never know. So I don't think it's totally throw everything out and burn the place down. I'm sort of with you in terms of I wouldn't have sacked him the other night. I genuinely wouldn't. I know most people would. I would give him this stage, but this job, and I agree. The manager keeps saying and he keeps trying to buy himself time, which is understandable in his position. And it will take time, and it is a big job. How much time is realistic for you before you want to see? Now, I'm not talking even about us winning title after title. I'm talking about how long before we're expecting Rangers to go on a run of winning 5 games in a row or whatever. How long's fair?
Well, you're starting off with Sunday. I think Sunday. I think it's almost like a
Yeah,
pause in the road. This is it. I'm pitching long term stuff. I'm pitching waiting a bit longer, but you're quite right. A good point that he's talking about. We have to win while we're learning, but I think that proves that he understands. He's not just coming in here. He's not saying I'm deliberately going to lose games. I don't really care. He's giving off that vibe that he doesn't care about results. You know, he might be trying to protect his players or whatever. He said, I'm not panicking. We're going to get there. And that's fine. But I think that's a big, it's a great point at the starting position for every individual supporter. What we were expecting from this season. Now, people are saying, well, I expect us to be able to beat Motherwell, beat St Mirren. Well, it hasn't been happening. It hasn't been happening for seasons after season. So that's not on him. Right? This is a way to maybe start. It is on him when he's in charge, obviously, and the individual games, certainly, but that's a cultural thing at Rangers. It's become a culture. Dundee, a great result from Ibrox. They haven't avoided defeat at Ibrox phases, but they've given us so many problems over the last few years. Dundee, it's just nothing different. But he knows that he has to win and what have you. But for me, he's got to do something on Sunday. I remember I'm talking. I know Ronnie Espin's a pal of mine, but he was in the press conference with Philip Clement last season, and Ronnie had to tell him, "You've got to go." What you did, I mean, after we'd lost to Queen's Park, that's a sackable offence. And the other night was a sackable offence. I couldn't have blamed anybody at Rangers for sacking him after the other night. It's just become so apparent that it's not going to happen that I'm trying to kind of deal with that. And I kind of agree with it as well, up to a point. There's many caveats in my agreement with that, which is that we have to do something respectable on Sunday. But I think if he doesn't, I think that might be it, and I think it might be it from his point of view as well. But I would say if you win on Sunday, then that's you at least give him another month. A couple of months. I think he should probably get into Christmas, but that's not going to happen. I think that, and that's what I'm talking about. The support is worrying me. And I think they're getting whipped up into a frenzy by various social media or various media outlets as well. This toxicity is getting mentioned all the time. Oh, what's it going to be like if you go a goal behind to Celtic? And if Nico Raskin's not in the team, people can be ready to riot an hour before the game, and then they turn up and just people are whipping it up into a frenzy. We're going to trash our own stadium if we can't beat Celtic, or if Celtic score a goal against us. I just feel as if that's not allowing any kind of clarity of thought going forwards, and I feel as if we know how bad things have been. We want to be winning league titles. We've won one league title in 15 years or 14 years, whatever, and it's not going to change overnight. It's going to have to be, maybe it's too kind of Presbyterian or whatever to think this way, but it's like there has to be suffering. When I see the only way you're going to change something that's become a legacy issue that's embedded in the dressing room, it's going to be ugly when it changes. We've got that ugliness just now. But we have to see signs. I actually felt as if I needed more from the press conference today as well. I needed maybe a bit more of an admission about what's happening with the players. But I think it's the decency in him. I think he's actually hoping he can get Raskin sold before Sunday. And then that's it. He doesn't have to say anything about it. But I think we were owed a bit more of an explanation after that horror show on Wednesday night.
I think so, yeah.
And that way we can say, right, okay, we'll take that on board. You get another month at least. But the improvement will have to be massive. And the international break will help as well.
Yeah. So the last thing, we'll give the manager a break in a minute, but the last thing on him before we do that would be on the Raskin thing. Now, you've touched upon it several times, but I just, for me, he seemed to come into the club, the manager, with a decision that he wants to move Raskin on. And I don't know if that's because he knew, I obviously don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I don't know if that's because he knew Raskin wants to go or what. But for me, given the size of the job and how big it is and how much had to be done and so on and so forth, the Raskin one didn't need to become this issue immediately. I mean, he was available from the start of the season. To me, when he's been available, hasn't been brilliant at all. But for me, Raskin's our best player, and the fact that he's not being played and he wasn't being played in his best position, and we brought someone in who isn't at this minute in time doing the job. It just seemed like it was a headache and it was a battle with the fans when you're gonna for the when he has so much change to do. It was a battle that he picked with the fans that for me he didn't need to. You know, the fans loved Raskin last season towards the end, partly because Raskin was very good, but partly because we were just looking for anything we could take to enjoy. But for me, it was a strange battle and it's a strange hill to die on. You know, when I look at this game coming up on Sunday, for example, and again we don't know, but all the talk is that Raskin won't be involved. That maybe if it's because if it's because he's moving and he's causing problems, then I completely agree with the manager. But if it isn't and it's something else, I don't understand it because when I look at our success against them last season, Raskin was key. The midfield battle was key. He was influential. Also, he has a good record of scoring against them. So for me, it was sort of a battle that he didn't need to pick. Does that make sense?
Only if Raskin hasn't picked the battle with him.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's all rumours, as it we're all hearing rumours all the time. And the fella that sits next to me comes in. I can't remember what game it was. I think it was Pilsen. Was it Pilsen at home? Aye, because obviously he'd gutted out the players after the Motherwell performance. And our best performance of the season under Russell Martin, Raskin and Tav aren't starting the game. And when they come on, that's when the goals stop. You know, and that's the kind of, I don't mean that's proven that they're not our best players. I love Tavernier in particular, but it maybe, I don't know, speaks to how Russell Martin's want to play. The first rumour I got that night, the fella next to me saying, I heard that down at, it's the same leak that's given us the starting lineup before every game. I heard it down at Burton, at St George's at the training, pre-season training. It was a team session and Raskin was sitting kind of slumped in his chair and talking to folk while the manager was making a presentation. And it was a kind of, what are you doing? Why are you, pay attention. That was the first kind of headbutt type thing. This whole room that they're not getting on with each other, or they see it in different ways. They see the way Rangers will be playing in a different way. It's given me big Barry Ferguson against Paul Le Guen vibes, right down to the fact I won each draw with St Mirren. I remember we drew with the game before PLG gets sacked, and he lost that battle. And Le Guen went. It was a 1-1 draw with St Mirren at Ibrox, and between Christmas and New Year, and Barry's on the park at the end, head in hands, just like using a bunch of clowns to his teammates. You're letting me do this, isn't it good enough? And he's obviously having a go at the manager as well. It's a kind of public display of, these aren't my standards, this isn't my fault. And Nico Raskin, he did it when he scored against St Mirren at Paisley in that 2 weeks draw towards the end of last season. When he scored his goal, I think to put us 2-1 up, he kind of walked up to the supporters like, wasn't it a celebration? It was like, there's no need for this. What's this all about? Kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
And then he was doing it again, giving it big licks at full time at Paisley on Sunday, like on the slump. He just had to do a kind of long busting, half the length of the pitch run in injury time to make up for giving the ball away in the St Mirren half. But he's lying in the park, and it was all very dramatic, all very kind of, look at me, I'm having a nightmare here. This just isn't working out, like for me as much as for you guys. It was giving me big vibes, and also like Thelo Asgard has been brought in as the kind of Gavin Ray of this situation. Like the manager's pathetically pinning all his hopes on him, just doing the business and making him look good to the fans. It's so many stories, like Manchester United under Ferguson, they had to get rid of the drinking culture, and that was Norman Whiteside, utter legend. You know what I mean? Yes. Guys like that he's getting rid of. Paul McGrath, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I dare say there'll be fans at that point in time doing it at Manchester that were giving it, why he's getting rid of them. That's just Jock Wallace, Colin Steele and Willie Johnson. There's a song about them, apparently they scored in some European final, and when Jock Wallace, who was the coach at that point, Willie Waddle the manager, but a couple of years later, Jock Wallace is manager, and he gets rid of the two of them. He sells the two of them because famously they were so cheeky and all that. He says, we've lost a couple of superstars, but I've gained a team. And then the trebles started rolling in. We won the leagues and the trebles. Colin Steele, of course, coming back to score the goal that secured us the title for the first time in 11 years. But I feel as if it feels like that kind of vibe going on. If it is so disruptive, if somebody is being kind of rebellious towards them, and it's somebody we can't afford to sack or for breach of contract because we need the money we would get for Raskin.
Yeah.
It's about having the team. It's about having the team for me. If Raskin he doesn't want to play at 8, the position he's been given early on in the season, and he's let him play at 6. After that, he's been back to playing at 6. And if he's still no, it's the problem. It's all up in the air. But the general theory, mate, is yes, we should be able to use our best players. But if our best players don't want to play for the manager, that just ruins the entire team. And Nico Raskin, as brilliant as he is, hasn't been. He's had injuries and that, but he hasn't been as consistent as everybody's imagining he is. And when he delivers his brilliance, when he does, it's really eye catching. And I thought, like Igaman, he'd be gone by now anyway. I just thought he'd be getting sold, no matter who the manager was this season after his performances in the Europa League last season. But
I didn't expect him to take the ball for Rangers this season. I expected him to be away. But no, it's interesting, that analogy with Le Guin and Ferguson. It's quite interesting, actually. And the thing that I would say to you, and the point that you're making, I agree with, is it doesn't matter if he's Lionel Messi. If your manager needs to be in charge and what your manager tells you to do, whether we like the manager or not. Otherwise, the whole thing doesn't work. So you have to respect your manager and you have to do as you're told. And if that is the case, then I do agree with it and I do support it. So, that's interesting. So we will move on from the manager and give him a wee bit of a break. His ears can stop burning here. But so I wanted to talk now the bigger picture in terms of signings. I wanted to take a wee minute to talk about. And I mean, I'm not totally delighted with Felwell so far in terms of, I think some of the signings, and particularly he's been, and again, this could be the manager, but we're too reliant on that English market for me. Now, I understand it's who they know and stuff like that, but I just think, one, we're too reliant on that. I think we bring in the likes of Max Aarons, who was a good player 4 or 5 years ago when he was coming through. But if you look at the Max Aarons that we were getting, the one that barely kicked the ball last season, it was set up for failure almost. And I think it shows you, if Tav, for example, was putting in some of the performances that Aarons had been, I mean, his car be on fire outside the stadium. What Tav gets for criticism is disgraceful and ungrateful for what he has given to the club, in my opinion. But I think it worries me, even Jiga's come in and looked okay at the start, but is really struggling now. And it worries me not only that they're coming just from England, but the lack of depth. The fact that Jiga knows he'll be playing on Sunday, regardless of how he played on Wednesday. And I think, I mean, for me now, you have to take Aarons out of the team. Tav is all right, best right back at this minute in time, but Jiga can't be taken out. And I would also highlight the fact that any club at this level that is playing in 3 major competitions at the minute and will obviously play in the cup as well, to have one left back who is inexperienced. Not that I'm coming for him in any stretch of the imagination. I think the kid did well when he started. He was shaky the other night, but that's to be expected. But the fact again, how can a club of this level have only one left back at this stage? I know we're sold to, but that's not good enough.
But that's it. I think we might have another one before Monday, 11 o'clock. I don't know. They might be trying to just rely on Magoma. I think we may be getting a few players in key areas. If Majovski's arriving, we're getting a centre forwards. If we get, I think we need another centre half, at least one more centre half anyway. Yes. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the manager has been really nice about John Souttar and has given him a kind of vice captaincy that once seemed to be Nico Raskin's at times last season. I don't know. But he's not really pushing getting him to the new contract. Isn't he getting signed? They're not making him an offer he can't refuse, kind of thing. So I feel as if we're getting a couple of other centre halves. Then you might maybe see the problem with space at the back between the centre halves and goalkeeper might get a bit better. I feel as if we might have another left back coming in before the try. We'll need one, like I say, mate. We'll need one. It's this way of you actually can't win just now. The atmosphere. And this is what I mean. Why I'm suspicious about making a rash decision like sacking a manager. After a month in charge. And don't get me wrong. The other night, Rangers have never been 5-0 down at half time, and I thought it was going to be 10. But then I think this it has to be at least 8. There's no way it can't be any less than 8. they'll probably go for 10, and it was all totally. It was almost a certainty they would get 8. We get 10. So the fact it never happened is quite unbelievable. It's a bit on Bruges, etc. And Nico Raskin will probably say it's on him because he come on the second half and showed it up. But I was like thinking Tav as player manager at half time. We were actually in a situation where a sacking at half time seemed likely. Wasn't the stuff of jokes. It was like, no, do it. So cold light of the day, calm down a bit and just try to see a way forward. But I think it's one of these things where Max Aarons, why is he not playing it right back? Why is he not playing it right back? Why do we keep putting him at left back? Why do we get Tav in at right back? This guy, get Tav to, like you're saying, and then Max Aarons, and it's like I'm seeing Max Aarons making a few bad passes. It's because he's using his wrong foot. It's like, no, fullbacks know how to play fullback, no matter what wing, and they can do the basics, but you couldn't say that. That was like, no, Tav's got to go, and that's it. So Max Aarons comes in, plays right back. We beat Pilsen 3-0, and it was because finally we got him playing his right position. 2 weeks later, get him gone. Max Aarons, he's the worst player I've ever seen in my life. Why have we signed him? It's the same way. I don't know. It's been happening. It's been happening through my entire Calvin Bassey. I was saying this guy's a bomb scare. He's an absolute waste of time. This fella.
I said the same at the start. Yeah.
And then turned into one of the most miraculous transformations I've ever seen. In fairness, it doesn't happen that often. A guy transforms like that. But my God, so you just at this stage of the season, you just don't know. Even on Aarons, get better. But we definitely, you're right. But we also had the thing with Jeffy just falling asleep at the wheel all the time. And it was like the next day, he'd fell asleep at the wheel. Great going forward and all that. The manager is saying, Russell Martin's just said, I don't fancy him. I've told him he's not really what we're looking for. Yeah. And then he comes on and against Pilsen away, he gives us another example of what it is he does wrong. And the next day, we're getting 6 million for this guy. Why are we selling these left backs? You fucking wanted rid of him 2 minutes. We're in that situation where everything we do is wrong. And if we move to correct it, that move is wrong as well. Even we're getting exactly what we want, we're not getting enough for Igaman. We've got whatever it is, 9 million or £8.5 million profit in the space of a season for the fella. Better than getting nothing. I know, but we should have got 20 million, blah, blah, blah. But it's just, we've got £20 million and more for these new backers. We don't have to worry about this stuff at this moment in time. I feel as if everything's a problem and we're just in the process just now of shifting people and getting people in, and it's not going to happen overnight. But I would think there's going to be periods we have to play without the cover. That's what I'm saying. But hopefully it is only a month, and the likes of that, the left back, centre half, centre forward, we get them all in, and a midfielder as well. We get them all in before 11 o'clock on Monday night, mate.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's very important. I just worry that it's such a vital point of the season. If we'd have had them in, I know you can't have everything done, but it's just such a vital point that
that is a point. That's what I was talking about earlier on. No, sorry, that's what I was talking about earlier on. It's your starting point as a supporter this season. I wasn't expecting to win the league. I was expecting us to. It's a 17-point gap last season. Get that down to single digits. That's realistic progress, and the depth of the change that I'm hoping for, that I'm expecting, that the fans have been wanting, is going to require such a level of work that it will be really slow at first. And every manager that's coming, nobody. I don't. Has anybody stepped in and just been seamless, like at the beginning of a season where they're reconstructing the squad like we wanted? We're sick of changing managers mid-season. Has anybody come in and done, and it's been seamless from the word go? I don't think so, ever. The problem is it's got to be if we want to win the league this season. That's why I'm like, well, we're obviously writing off this season. I think it's a collective frustration at being in this situation at the start of every season. But it doesn't mean it still doesn't. It needs done. It still needs doing, despite that. So that's it.
On the more positive, no, you're fine, absolutely. On the more positive note, one player who I'll admit I didn't think had a future, and we talk about the lack of mentality in the team, but has shown brilliant mentality, in my opinion, is Jack Butland. And the last thing we'll say on the other night was he was phenomenal for me. I mean, you talk about your 10s, it was easily 10 without him. And I think from where he was and how far he had fallen, to come back and to be playing at that level and to be doing that, I think he deserves immense praise.
He's automatically, retrospectively, cleared of all blame for the first goal we lost in the home leg against. It was Giga. That's it. That was no debate now. It's the ultimate.
Yeah.
I had massive problems with Jack Butland. Some of them were personal. It was just me being ratty, but it was this thing that he'd interviewed our board at the end of his first season. He'd spoken to the directors on the plane to basically say, convince me to stay. And I just thought, you're good, but you're not that good, mate. That's that a bit, and that's the way he kind of presented himself. This kind of, but obviously he's had a few personal issues as well, which you can only give him sympathy for. And he got so bad at the end of last season that I couldn't slag him because it just felt like a pile-on. It was obviously crumbling, and I felt terrible. I will never slag Jack Butland again. The other thing I will never slag again is not getting enough injury time, because when that referee blew at like 4 seconds past the 90 the other night, I actually had a false high because I was, I thought, but we haven't gone past our records. That's the third time we've lost by 6 goals in a match in Europe. No, I thought that was going to be 8, 9 or 10. 2 seconds later, you're like, we've just got beat 6-0. It was horrific. But I'll never slag it, and I'll never slag Jack Butland again. He has been fucking immense, mate. I think it sums up again another, what we're like as supporters. It doesn't count. We only beat Panathinaikos because of Jack Butland. We only hung on against Victoria Pills because he's a member of the team. Celtic fans. We don't say to Celtic fans, you only won the trophies in the late 90s, early 2000s because Henrik Larsson was scoring all the goals. That doesn't. It's part of the team. It's part of the
game.
But my God, you can't. If you've got eyes, he has literally saved. No pun intended. He's totally saved us. And I'm always spouting on here about. James Tavernier is a hero, not because he's the greatest Rangers, most talented player Rangers have ever had, but it's because what he's done when the chips are down. That's my real heroes, the guys that help. And in these few games, the few games that we've had this season, Jack Butland has just been phenomenal. Yeah. And what he's done, and to save you from a humiliation, that's real playing for the jersey. All this going out there, and when we're the best team in Britain, and you've come in from your Loudrup or your Gascoigne, you're getting paid millions, and you're just turning everybody over every week. That's great and phenomenal to watch. But the real heroes are the guys who, when it's you're on a tanking. And I thought he's just he's been brilliant all season, and I'm actually I'm happy for him as well. And I'll never slag him again.
Fair enough. I'll agree to that. I lied to you. I said that was the last thing on the other night. Now, this is definitely, but just out of interest, you've watched Rangers for a couple of years more than me, I would say.
Brilliant.
Was that the worst performance you've ever seen, or can you think of anything else just to cheer up the mood?
Oh, I didn't see the game against Progress Niederkorn, and Niederkorn, I didn't see the second leg. I was at the first leg, and I went on holiday. I went to Jersey, actually. And my wife said to me, she was in such a good mood to be going on holiday, whatever. We arrived, and I'd never been to Jersey before. It was the day of the second leg, and she says to me, "Oh, there's a sign outside a pub saying they're showing the Rangers game here tonight. Do you want to come? We could have something to eat in here and just watch the game." And I'm like, "No, it's a holiday. It's going to be well, just the first day of the holiday. Because she's not that interested in the football." And I thought, no, I'm just going to spend the night with you, Hen, because I was thinking to myself, it's going to be fine. And it's the most horrific. That's maybe the most horrific result of all time. We got beat off Liverpool 7-1. Obviously, they scored 6 goals against us in the second half. That was 1 each at half time. We get beat 6-0 off Real Madrid in the European Cup in 63-64. We won the treble that year. But they were great. Liverpool had just been in the Champions League final in the June of 2022. We'd been in the Europa League final. So a great team, Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. Different level altogether, and Real Madrid, that was one that was literally the greatest team in the history of the European Cup that beat us 6-0 that night. It was horrific the night we got beat off Liverpool. Horrific to watch. I thought that was maybe an all-time low. Going out to Niederkorn was horrendous. Aris Limassol beating us, pretty bad. But we've been 4-0 down at half-time a couple of times. We've never been 5-0 down at half-time. I think when somebody says to you, it's an instinctive thing when somebody says, "What's your worst ever get?" It's going to be the other night, because I spent 40 minutes thinking we're going to get beat 10-0. We should get beat 10-0. The way we're playing, 8 was going to be a result. 6 was actually a miracle. The way we were playing in that game. So that is, as a Rangers supporter, you don't expect to ever be in that situation. But even then, you have to temper it by saying they're a Champions League group stage club now, Bruges. Celtic, for example, have been taken. I'm not having a go. We were in the Champions League group stages and everybody was doing us the last time we were in it. The gap, as we know, is getting wider. Celtic, even when we were in the lower leagues, and they're getting unfettered access to the Champions League. We're taking 7-0 doings off various teams. And Barcelona, they get beat 8-2 off Bayern Munich.
That's right.
In the Champions League quarter-finals a few years back. So we've never conceded 8 in Europe. So that's we're better than Barcelona still. But that was the worst. That was the worst, and I never want to see anything like it again.
Yep, here. You touched upon it earlier just briefly, but Miovski, what are your thoughts? He's a player who I wouldn't say I almost said I liked, but I don't like anybody that plays for Aberdeen. But I admired him certainly, and I at the time thought it's a player we should be looking at. I think if the fee that is reported in around 2 million, 2.5, something like that, I think that'll be a brilliant piece of business. I think he's a great player for us. I think we need to be creating more chances for whoever's up there. But I think on paper, good signing.
I'm pretty sure he scored against us at Ibrox, Hampden, and Pittodrie. Maybe no Ibrox. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he scored against us.
I think he did score at Ibrox. I think I remember.
The three venues, and he's an artist. He's a craftsman. He's a beautiful player to watch. And I'm the same as you. I used to watch all the Scottish football, but after 2012, I can't really do it. I'm not consciously trying not to watch other Scottish football. I just find it pretty tough. The top flight stuff anyway. The rest of the clubs that were old enemies now feel like proper enemies. But like Lawrence Shankland at Hearts and Miovski, are guys you couldn't ignore. They were just the things they were doing were so good. I've even got a soft spot for what do you call him, Simon Murray at Dundee, because of the damage he does to us, whether at Ross County, Dundee, whatever. But no, I think this would be a great signing. I think there's chat about how he maybe makes the best of the space he's afforded when playing against the old firm, because obviously Rangers and Celtic are piling forward against most teams, against Aberdeen, and he's not going to get that, the low block problem. But I think it's definitely somebody worth forking out a couple of million to get in, and I'm really quite excited, and I hope he starts. I hope it's all been done and dusted, and he's in the starting lineup on Sunday, mate.
You've just done the next question, but there we go. That's fine. Yeah, no, I would love to see him starting if possible as well. So on to Sunday then, more specifically. Obviously, they're no great shakes at the minute either, although they're not having conceded any goals. But I think they're there to be got at. It's just that our defence, every time that anyone attacks, looks like they're going to score against us. So that's what concerns me. But I don't overly fear them, other than the fact that we are in the form that we're in. So you've already said that a win would buy more time, and obviously should. Is there any way if we lose, we're 9 points behind? But is there any way in which we lose that you think, okay, we've played well, we're unlucky, that you wouldn't sack him then at that point? Or does it have to be a heavy defeat for you to sack him, or what do you feel about that?
I think if we look, there's definitely, you're alluding to that. You always set yourself up with imagined scenarios before a game, and then you get into a game and stuff happens. A couple of sendings off, maybe dubious, and we lose by maybe a couple of goals to nil, and maybe show a bit of bottle, whatever, gets the fans on side, or whatever. Maybe that's not going to create the maelstrom of hate that we think is going to be sent towards Russell Martin if we lose this game. Just kind of a straightforward 11 against 11 and no kind of mitigating circumstances. But I think if we lose 1 or 2-0, I think the owners will want to keep him on. The owners will want to keep him. That won't alter them. This is what we wanted, Ben. This is what 2 months ago the flags were out. It was popping the champagne corks because a couple of strangers had bought complete control of our club. And this is what we're aiming towards, to having this financial stability, this kind of financial heft. But I think a lot of supporters are suddenly realising, as it always happens at Rangers, we don't know what we've got until it's gone. That's why I'm always saying there'll be statues to have 10 years down the line. When the manager himself said that the other night, once I've been winning, I can tell you exactly what's going on behind the scenes. I think with Rangers supporters, once we've got to a position of winning again regularly, we can face up properly to what happened in 2012 and why it took so long, why it was only natural for it to take so long for us to get back to the top. But we've gone from we've been able to influence the directors we had over the last couple of years, who are Rangers men, Rangers supporters, and were, nowhere near the money, the financial wealth that our new owners have got. And they constantly were trying to give us what we wanted, and all they were taking was abuse. And I think there's a part of, we still think we can do that. I think that's why there's threats. It's going to be really toxic. That they're going to be at the game with Nathan Kavanagh. They'll have to pay attention to us. I think we're worrying we're losing a bit of control. They don't give a shit. If they'll have a plan, they will just. And I think we actually need that just now. Somebody who's going to think more coolly, more dispassionately, and just do what they want to do. And I think if we get beat by maybe a couple of goals, they'll want to keep Russell Martin still. That won't bother them. I don't know if the abuse though will bother Russell Martin, but it could go. I definitely could go either way. And I think that the turnaround we saw in the Pilsen game at home from the Motherwell game before that, I want to see that kind of. I think that's definitely in this, and the way we play as well. I think it's right now. It's going to be all sugar or shite. It's going to be sugar or shite. It's just going to be. We're not at it at all. Celtic take advantage. It's outrage toward Russell Martin, or we're going to blow them away, and we'll give them another month.
Yeah. No, I think what you're saying is right in terms of they do not get where they are in the business world, let alone the sporting world, if they're going to just listen to hearsay or listen to man on the street, about these things. They're going to do what they think is right for the long-term strategy of the business, which is what we are. So yeah, the first goal on Sunday for me is obviously always important, but I think on this particular one, take away the obvious answer about the stadium. Obviously, if they go 1-0 up early, we've heard about the toxicity and all that. But I think also the one thing that worries me about this team at the minute is, other than just their basic defending, is the fact that we can see goals in clusters. And you saw that the other night. So for me, us getting that first goal, one, building up the atmosphere from that, two, getting a bit of confidence in the players, but also the fact that if we conceded one early, I would be afraid before you know it, it's 3-0. So I think that is so very important. Do you?
We've literally seen that, 3 goals in 20 minutes. I think that's the only time in European terms anyway. It's the only time we've conceded 3 goals in 20 minutes in any European match. In the first 20 minutes, because we conceded 3 goals in 6 minutes towards the end of the first half the other night, as well as the 3 and 6 minute that Mo Salah scored against us for Liverpool. But you're absolutely right, my friend. And I think sometimes 9 times out of 10, I think it's the chance to bounce back. I think that's overstated. When we lost to Queen's Park under Clement, we actually won our next game 3-1 at Tynecastle, and it was a horrendous performance. Everybody was just like, "Oh, what Hearts should have battered us there?" and what have you. So it was the following week we get beat 2-0 at home off St Mirren. That's what we thought. Definitely time to sack him. It's gone. So I think it's difficult, but I think things are so bad just now that if we were to go out and we were to get that first goal, the place would go so nuts. I think the players would get such a sense of relief and such a sense of energy that there'd be no stopping them, to be quite honest. But as you say, the main problem is if we do concede the first goal, and that's when I think, as a Rangers supporter at that game, you need to decide what way are you going to go. Are you just going to turn on the team? And it's your right. It's a lot of people feel not everybody comes on podcasts and what have you. That's their right. That's their only chance to vent how they're feeling. But do you maybe stick by them and hope that, even just so you can say to yourself, you're not part of aiding a Celtic victory by turning on a team and turning it toxic. Wait to the final whistle before you start throwing yourself off that's what I'll be doing before I start chucking myself off the main stand and run on the park and what have you. It's we need to. It's a really good point. Really, it's always vital, the first goal in an Old Firm game. Just now on Sunday, more than ever.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's people's prerogative what way they support the team or let the team know. I'm not a booer for that. I have at the end of games sometimes, but while the game is still going on, I try to be measured and to support the team at the end of the day, because I don't think again, it's up to people, but I don't think anything is gained by booing your own team. I don't see what it is, if anything. But there you are. Score prediction from you. I mean, last time yourself and I were on, I said 3-0 at home to Pleasant, and you said 4-1 only because I had said 3-0. So, and we were laughed at, and there you go. So, if we could do something similar, that would be nice.
Yes. Oh, in that case, I'll probably put it this way. I will roundly mocked. We were by our colleagues, by our Gersnet colleagues as well. I know. So no, but but you're talking about the first goal there. I think it's a very good chance. I think it's one of those games because the two of them have been so bad, had such disastrous weeks in Europe, and we want to get rid of it. It's probably the first Old Firm game, as they're saying, where that both sets of supporters are saving all their bile for their own team, as opposed to each other. It was always going to happen with band away supporters for the Old Firm game. We had to find the hate somewhere. We're hating each other now in the same support, but. If we get the first goal, I think there's a chance that whoever gets the first goal could win 3-4-0. Just say that, and I think the final score is going to be our fourth successive one each.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to say 2 each because I can't see us only conceding one. That's the thing. And you're assuming that there are no. Assuming we know you play Mayoffsky if you come in, but assuming we've got the squad as it is right now, what is your starting lineup? Not necessarily what you think the manager will do, but what would you do?
It's not. I can't do that because I need to know what's happening in the dressing room. I need to know what's happening with Raskin. I need to know if he's going to be
We're
there.
All best friends, so
we're all best friends. Raskin plays, because Joe Rothwell's done. He's knackered. He needs a break. He needs a break. He's admitted it himself. I think he knows the plan. He implements the plan from the manager. He knows the blueprint because he played under him, but he's absolutely exhausted, the fella. But you would have Raskin playing, obviously, and he loves playing against Celtic as well. He's, set up a goal against them, dominated them in January, and then scores a goal against them at Parkhead. And he loves playing against them. So you would definitely have Raskin in the team, all things being equal. But I would have Diamandi as well, but it's a Diamandi of last season. I'm talking about, and Lyle
Although
Cameron.
The big games is when he generally plays well, so hopefully.
And Lyle Cameron, and I think it's still going to be Gassam and Ant-Man, because you're hoping it's going to be a great atmosphere. You're hoping it's going to be great, and they would fly with it. Majowski, or Big Cyril if he's still around. But Majowski would be my preference, and but like you say, Giga, Suter. Super Jack Butland in goals, and I think it's going to have to be Makoma at left back, and then you've got a decision, and I think it has to be James Tavernier.
Same team as myself then, Okay, well, just before we finish up, I think it would be remiss of me not, especially with yourself on, not to talk about the Europa League draw. You're our European correspondent after all, so just it's quite a favourable draw. Now for me, Europe is a bonus. It's obviously I love it, but we need to consistently be winning domestically. But I think winning breeds winning. So if we can manage to try and do that in Europe, then hopefully we can do that domestically as well. But the draw obviously is Roma at home, Braga, Ludogorets, and Genk, and then away to Porto, Ferencváros, Sturm Graz, and Brann. Are there any teams you haven't seen at Ibrox? Because I know you look out for those.
3 of them. It's absolutely phenomenal. It was a tremendous. It's been the happiest moment of the week for me. And Rome, I reckon Roma are I think they're the biggest club in Europe that I haven't seen live.
You were hoping we got them in the Europa League last year, weren't you? At one point,
I saw Lazio. I was at the Cup Winners' Cup final in '99, the last ever Cup Winners' Cup final down at Villa Park. So I've seen Lazio. Never seen. I think it's quite good that we get to play Roma, but we don't have to go to Rome, so I don't have to worry about the Bears. And what's going to happen to them, because they're very stabby, the Romans, over there. But it's a really interesting draw, mate. It's a shame that we're sandwiched between two such kind of really critical, hysterical ties that we're playing, domestically, and having just gone out of the Europa, the Champions League the way we did. But Roma, I'm really looking forward to playing them. Porto, it's going to be like the fourth time. I think it's the fourth time we've played Porto, and Europe will be the third time I've seen them. Braga's third time we're playing Braga, who lost to Porto in the 2011 Europa League final. Ferencváros are the very first. We haven't played a Hungarian team in
Right.
Europe since the last time we played Ferencváros. It's the only Hungarian side we played.
Yeah.
They play in the green and white hoops. They've got Robbie Keane as manager. But Ferencváros are the very first team, the only European trophy we've won, the competition we won, the Cup Winners' Cup. Ferencváros were the very first team we played in the Cup Winners' Cup. The first round, the prelim round in 60-61. And the very last team that we played in the Cup Winners' Cup was Porto, who put us out in 83-84 in their way to the final. So we've got the two of them. That's a wee coincidence there. And Genk, never played them before. I've never seen them before. Alec McLeish's old team, Genk, from Thomas Buffel, played for them as well. Philip Clement didn't win the league with them as well. So, but maybe sick of looking at Belgians, but a chance for a bit of kind of a bit of revenge there against Belgians. Brand Bergen, only third time I played a Norwegian side. Molde, Paul Le Guen, we beat Molde. Norwegians have never scored against us, so touch wood, that keeps up. We've got a 100% record.
Never played this defence, so.
Exactly. I should shut up about that. But what else did we have? Was that it?
Sturm Graz.
Sturm Graz. I watched them getting horsed by the mighty Bodo Glimt, or something else. And they were. I meant to look this up. Is it Ingolstadt? The stadium, the Arnold Schwarzenegger, isn't up to scratch. Sturm Graz's stadium. We're playing them away. It's not to scratch. So I think it's moving to the stadium that they basically built up massive for the Euros in 2008, and it's never full, because that's where they played Bodo Glimt in the second leg there.
Yeah.
So I need to check that out. Right? So and Ludogorets, we must be the only team left in Europe that haven't played them. Every time you switch on European highlights or whatever, it's always Ludogorets Razgrad. So I think that's the first Bulgarian team we've played since Levski Sofia. And a horrific night back in the playoffs of the Champions League for different reasons, because it was so close as opposed to the horsing we got the other night. But I was a bit disappointed when I saw that Roma have got Celtic at Parkhead as well. That kind of made that took the shine off a bit when I found that out later on, But no,
you'll not be going to that one then.
I'll not be going to that one, mate. No, I'm glad that they got. Let's see, Shakhtar Donetsk. I've never seen them. They've got Aberdeen at Pataudry. I always do that thing of going, I just couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to give them money, But they're a European finalist. I haven't seen Shakhtar Donetsk, but no, we need to get the team sorted out. We need to know it's not going to turn into a nightmare of horsings, But I'm really looking forward to seeing Roma at Ibrox, and it's I'm actually, at first I was against this thing of just 4 teams at home, 4 away, but I'm actually quite starting to enjoy it.
I quite like it, I must say. Yeah.
Aye.
And I think you look at our draw last year, we had Lyon, we had Tottenham, we had Man United. So I think on paper it's a more favourable. There's still some tricky games in there.
You've only got 2 teams from Portugal, whereas last season, we're in pot 1 this time. I mean, you look at our coefficient ahead of Celtics, we're like twice as good as the points we had next to us going into that draw. But we've only got two teams for the Portugal, which was a really high standard, the Portuguese league. But with 2 teams for the EPL, 2 teams for the English Premier League, and 2 teams from Liga 1 last season that we're playing against. So should be slightly easier. And I think it needs to be, because I think we need things to be slightly easier in Europe this season. Like you say, the focus now is very much on the domestic stuff. But this is what the supporters wanted. I'm not saying they wanted to get beat 6-0 or 9-1 in aggregate off Bruges, but the kind of angry reaction the past few seasons, it's got to the point where Rangers supporters are actually kind of angry at us doing so well in Europe. It's been used as a kind of insult. You can get to the quarterfinals of the Europa League, but you can turn up in Europe, but you can't do this. I'll always love European competition, because the rest of Europe doesn't care who wins the league in Scotland. They just notice what you're doing in Europe, the big boys' playground. But it's a really exciting draw, really, really lovely, and I just hope we can get ourselves in a bit of form to properly enjoy it.
Yeah, no, sounds fair. Well, I think Frankie might kill me because we've run on a little bit here tonight, but I've enjoyed that, and I hope you have too, and I hope your team wins on Sunday. But thank you for joining me.
No, very cathartic, mate. Thanks very much for your patience. It's been very emotional, so my answers always going a bit long, but tonight they went on particularly brutally long, but it just had to get out of the system, and thanks very much for that, Ben. Great fun, mate.
Good. No, I enjoyed it. And thank you to everybody for watching, as always. Again, just to remind you that the podcast will be available on all your Spotify and Apple Podcasts and on various podcast platforms in the near future. We'd also appreciate if you would share and subscribe as well to the pod. And just to remind you all that John will be hosting on Sunday night to look back on our victory over Celtic. and he will be joined by Rob and Stuart. So tune in at the usual time, and we will be back soon. Thank you again for watching.